slight bit to the right. Sure. We're just going to stand right here as soon as he walks in.
If he comes in, huh?
He's going to stand along the edges. I'm waiting for Butch right now. Clear as the door through the fire marshal's office.
Ready.
What's up, Governor? Good. How are you?
Amen. You need that fan? Show up.
Anyone need a mic check or a white balance before we get started? Good? Okay.
Yeah, that's what we want to bring inside.
All right. Excuse me. Thank you.
Alrighty, good morning. My name is Ashley Rodrigue. I am the Public Affairs Director for the Louisiana State Fire Marshal's Office. I first want to thank the St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office for hosting this press conference for us today. I also want to thank all of you for your patience and cooperation over the past couple of days. Behind me are the officials that will be speaking during this morning's press conference. Starting at my right, of course, Governor John Bell Edwards, and then State Fire Marshal Chief Butch Browning. We have St. Landry Sheriff Bobby Guidros. There you go. We also have Dana Nichols, ATF New Orleans Field Division, Special Agent in Charge, as well as Eric J. Rommel, FBI New Orleans Field Office Special Agent in Charge. And then we have, of course, Pastor Gerald Toussaint from Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. You will see spellings of all of these names on the press release you're about to receive electronically. Also behind me, you can see Louisiana State Police Colonel Kevin Reeves. Thank you for joining us. Representatives from the Florida Bureau of Fire, Arson, and Explosives Investigations, along with St. Landry Fire Districts 2 and 3, and a host of law enforcement agencies that were part of this investigation and very critical. Each speaker will provide their update and comments to you, and then we will open for questions. We ask in an effort to maintain order and fairness that if you have a question, please raise your hand and wait to be called upon. We'd like to answer all of your questions, and we want to ensure that those questions are heard fully and accurately so the right person can answer it for you. Thank you, and we will start with the governor.
Thank you, Ashley. I want to thank everybody for being here today, and as you can see from the folks in this room, this has been a team effort and a lot of great teamwork and a lot of hard work from a lot of folks. As you all know, over the past couple of weeks, I and the people across the state of Louisiana, in fact, people across the country, have been deeply troubled by the disturbing string of church fires here in St. Landry Parish and also one in Caddo Parish. And it has been especially painful because it reminds us of a very dark past of intimidation and fear. That is why this morning I'm glad that we're able to come together and to announce that an arrest has been made in connection with the fires that burned the 3 historically African-American churches here in St. Landry Parish over a 10-day span. The suspect who was arrested is Holden Matthews, a 21-year-old white male from here in St. Landry Parish. At this point, though, I do want to point out that we have no reason to believe that the 3 fires here in St. Landry Parish are related to the fire in Caddo Parish at the Vivian United Pentecostal Church. In a few moments, State Fire Marshal Butch Browning and representatives from all the law enforcement agencies involved in making this arrest happen and who are actively investigating still are going to brief you on the details that they are able to share. But first, I want to commend Chief Browning and all of the folks of the State Fire Marshal's Office, along with investigators from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the FBI, the Louisiana State Police, the St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Bobby Guidros, and everyone who came together for their expert and professional investigation of this case, along with the Florida State Fire Marshal's Office. And I want to stop and just for a moment express my very sincere appreciation to them, because you can expect that all the other agencies would be involved in an investigation of this type. But the assistance we received from Florida is extraordinary. We really appreciate it. It was very helpful. They sent 2 strike teams. I think it was 7 investigators over, and they were very, very helpful in undertaking this investigation. Everyone has been working around the clock to get to the bottom of these fires just as swiftly as possible and identify and apprehend the perpetrator. I also want to acknowledge the pastors and parishioners of St. Mary, led by the Reverend Kyle Sylvester, of Greater Union, led by Reverend Harry Richard, and of Mount Pleasant Baptist Church, led by Reverend Gerald Toussaint. And all of you and your members have shown incredible grace and faith in the midst of this painful and tragic loss that they've each suffered. Now, I said it Monday in the State of the State address at the legislature. Nobody should ever fear for safety in their house of worship or fear that their church will be destroyed. I don't know what this young man's motive was. I don't know what was in his heart, but I can say it cannot be justified or rationalized. These were evil acts. But let me be clear about this. Hate is not a Louisiana value. And violence has no place in our communities. We are better than this. And this is a reflection of one depraved individual. It is not a reflection on the state of Louisiana. And I am extremely confident that I am 100% correct when I say that. And while I hope that justice will restore some peace of mind to the members of this community, I also realize that it's going to take time to recover, both physically and emotionally, from the damage that has been done. But in the words of Psalm 62, God is our fortress, and we will never be shaken. So I would ask that everyone listening to this press conference join me in praying for healing and restoration. Let's pray for the congregations in this Lenten season. Let's make sure that they all have a place to worship on Palm Sunday and then Easter Sunday. And by the way, let's pray for Mr. Matthews and his family, that God will create in him, in all of us, but in him at this time, a clean heart, invoking Psalm 51. So at this point, I'm going to be followed by the Louisiana Fire Marshal, Butch Browning, and then the run of show will run as Ashley indicated previously. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, and I want to thank you for your immediate support and concern and direction in this manner, and clearly this response to this incident was seamless, and all the agencies worked together. I stand before you to tell you that this community is safe again. We are extremely, unequivocally confident that we have the person who is responsible for these tragic crimes on these 3 churches. And I have to tell you, this investigation is probably one of the most unique arson investigations that I've been involved in my 33 years, in that this was an attack on the house of God. This was an attack on not just a place that people go on a weekly interval and worship. It's a place where they've had weddings. It's a place where they've had funerals. It's a place where generations, we're talking about buildings that were over 100 years old, where generations of families have been raised. So though the spirit is still strong, the landmark has been destroyed. We took that very seriously in this investigation. And as you hear about the things that we can talk about, you're going to understand about the passion of the investigators associated with this team. And in the end, you're going to learn that we had some very unique criminal investigators. They were called pastors, and I'll talk about them in the end. As the governor stated, 21-year-old Holden Matthews, who is a resident of Opelousas, has been arrested. He's been charged with state crimes by the State Fire Marshal's Office, Louisiana Revised Statute 1452.1, 3 counts of simple arson on religious buildings. Each one of these charges have a maximum of 15-year penalty. As a quick recap of the case, 3 churches in St. Landry Parish burned in a 10-day span. The St. Mary Baptist Church in Port Barre on March 26, the Greater Union Baptist Church on April 2nd, and finally the Mount Pleasant Baptist Church on April 8th. We can now confirm that all 3 of these fires are intentionally set, and all 3 of these fires are related. Several pieces of evidence, both physical from the scene and technological evidence, have confirmed that Matthews is the suspect. At this time, the investigation is extremely active, and again, as we go through the statements made and questions that we answer, we are very restricted on what we can say, and you're going to understand why. We're still vetting several motives. However, information that the investigators have uncovered is that Matthews had offered, through suggestions and connections, a relationship with a type of music called black metal and its association in history with church burnings in other parts of the world, which have been documented in movies and books. Any question of potential motives are going to go to the federal authorities. There's a lot of discussion about the hate motive. Understand something, that the hate motive is a federal nexus, and the federal authorities are extremely vetting that, and will speak to that. However, what you need to understand is that the investigators sought out a very significant threat in this community. And when Matthews was developed as a suspect, we saw an immediate threat to public safety. We felt that other crimes were imminent. In an abundance of public safety, we quickly secured state warrants and took him into custody. So when we say this investigation is still active, understand that there were extraordinary means taken to bring safety to this community. And again, I will say, the threat is now gone. It's now up to the furthest of the investigation and us bringing to the prosecutors, whether it be state, whether it be federal, to be determined the right information so they can do their job. I have to talk about the work of the investigative team, and as the governor stated, it was an exceptional team. The aforementioned agencies, both from the federal standpoint, from the state, and down to the local, made this case. This case is a textbook example of successful traditional boots-on-the-ground law enforcement, coupled with the science of fire and fire investigation, and finally, modern-day technology. That's how this case was solved. It's a very labor-intensive job, but it was expertly executed by many people who knew each other from previous investigations, but also outside investigative agencies who came to the table under the understanding that not only did we have a serious public safety threat, but we had an attack on our God and our religion. Finally, I want to speak to that. Immediately when this investigation ensued, we knew that our pastors were important to us. Immediately after these fires, the pastors were brought in, and they were part of our investigative team. The first thing they did was pray for us, and that's what set us on the right track. The second thing they did was they became the agents of information. They were a calming voice in the community. And finally, they were reasons why we were able to cultivate the scientific leads that we did. So as we met this morning to brief the pastors on the success of the investigation, we are now moving forward. We're going to continue this investigation. We're now working with these pastors from a building code standards situation to help them design their next building and get through the permitting process to quickly get these churches back into the great work that they do. But I have to tell you, in my career, I have never seen such a spiritual mission that's come home so quickly, and I appreciate you for that. I'd like to next introduce my friend, Sheriff Bobby Guitros, who, without his support, without his boots on the ground, without his connections in this community, and without his knowledge of how state and federal organizations work, we would have never started off on the right foot that we did. So, Sheriff, I want to give you all the credit for how this investigation began. Oh, man. You know, it's pretty bad when the press overrides you like that, huh? Well, but I'm going to make up a new introduction for you, Sheriff, because I really, I mean, you have done a great job, and I want to commend you and your deputies for what you've done. So in spite of protocol that I just averted, I want to invite up our next partner, who, by the way, ATF was on the ground with us on the first fire. As many of you know, I was involved in a significant church fire investigation in 1994, and many of the lessons we learned there we've employed across the country, and ATF is a very vital piece of that. So I'd like to invite Ms. Dana Nichols, who is the New Orleans Special Field Agent in charge of the ATF.
Thank you, Fire Marshal, and to the Sheriff, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. Obviously, it's not a reference to any level of importance. It is just the order, I think, alphabetically of how we're doing this speaking. So again, good morning, and a lot of what I will say will echo the sentiments of what you will hear, you know, across the board from everyone. But I, too, would like to thank everyone for being here today. I would also like to say a special thanks again to the Fire Marshal, to the Governor, to the Sheriffs, to my counterpart, Zach Ramo from the FBI, to the community, to the congregations, to the pastors, and to the men and the women that don't have an opportunity to stand here behind me that worked on this investigation tirelessly. It is a collaborative effort, and you will hear that echo throughout any person that stands here at this podium. We don't stand here today without that joint effort. We don't stand here today announcing this arrest without that support. Like all the agencies behind me, ATF is committed to working with our law enforcement community to identify and arrest any individuals or any group that engages in arson, in particular as it relates to crimes of violence in our houses of worship. We will bring to bear all of our ATF investigative resources and technical experts when we have an investigative effort or situation to occur in the community concerning church fires. We will bring in our certified fire investigators. We will bring in our canine and explosives handlers and our dogs. We will bring in our national response team. We take these crimes seriously. We understand the impact that it can have on a community. We can understand the impact that it has on the church. There is a zero tolerance for this type of crime, and we will work tirelessly, and we have, and it's been demonstrated over the past 10 days, to bring the individual or individuals or groups responsible to justice. Today is a good day. No, today is a great day. Let me rephrase that. Today is a great day. In my career, I have worked more than a few investigations, involving church arsons. And with today's arrest, and I'm going to go a little bit off script because the governor and the marshal stole some of my thunder here.
You talk better off script, from the heart. Talk from the heart.
But with today's arrest, I want to send a strong message to those individuals who wish to continue to engage in this heinous, senseless crime. And I want to say this, that the church is a sacred place. That goes without question. And it is the foundation of our faith. And it is what this country is built on. It is built on a belief in a higher power. That is what guides us. That is what keeps us safe. And that is what gives us comfort. The church is a place that we go to fellowship. It is a place that we go to pray. It is a place that we go to communicate with God. It is a place that we grow up in. It is a place that we are baptized in. It is a place that our family members, when they pass, we go to celebrate their lives and their death. It is a place that when the pressures of life have become too great and it has brought us to our knees, we go to church to look for guidance. We go to church to look for strength. We go to church to address and to deal with our pain and our hurt. And I want to say to the individuals who engage in these types of crimes, you have caused pain and you have caused hurt. But know this, that you cannot destroy our faith.
Amen. That's right.
We can have church anywhere.
That's right.
We can have church in a parking lot. We can have a church in a field. And as many of us know, when we're doing our, building fund, we can have church under a tent. We can have church on a porch. And know this, we'll have church in the very parking lot where the building you destroy will stand as a remembrance to us that God is still with us. You have destroyed a building, but you have not destroyed our faith.
That's right.
We will rebuild these churches. The community will support these churches. The churches will support each other. And your acts of violence, understand this, regardless of your motives, you have only destroyed a building. What you have done is you have brought us together.
Yes.
You have restored our faith in God. You have brought people together that did not know each other before, but that will be binded by the events. So what you have done is this, is you've done nothing but increased our faith, increased the message of God, and we will move forward. So in closing, I will say again this. Thank you to everyone, to all of our investigators, federal, state, and local law enforcement, to the pastors, to the support of the community, to the support of the congregations. And hopefully today's arrest will bring some sense of peace and understanding that hopefully we have put an end to this violent activity. And as I said in my remarks, today's not just a good day, today is a great day. Our federal investigation will continue. We are not done. We are continuing our investigative activities because we want to make sure that any and all individuals, if there are other individuals that have engaged or are involved in this, that they will be brought to justice. So again, as I said, know this, individuals, today you have done nothing more but to restore our faith in God and to bring a community together and to unite us all, which is what this country truly needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'd now like to bring up the FBI to make comments.
Good morning. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with the congregations of St. Mary Baptist Church, Greater Union Baptist Church, Mount Pleasant Baptist Church, and the community as a whole. A cornerstone of our country is the freedom of religion and the right to practice your faith freely and without intimidation. The teamwork and collaboration has been exemplary, especially with the Louisiana State Fire Marshal's Office, the St. Landry's Parish Sheriff's Office, the ATF, and the State Police, and of course the brave people of this community. The FBI is currently working with our law enforcement partners to determine if this incident was bias motivated. Let me be clear. The FBI New Orleans Field Office will continue to collaborate and coordinate our efforts with our partners standing here today. These criminal actions will not be tolerated, and we will ensure justice is sought for all victims. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, I get to introduce
Go ahead. Go ahead. You can do it better than I do.
the Sheriff, St. Landry's Parish.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. What a phenomenal team we had here. I mean, it was just, I hope it never happens again in St. Landry Parish, but if it does, y'all coming back. I got to tell you, you're going to come back.
Oh, yes.
The first day I met with the Fire Marshal, Bush Browning, and he told me, he said, Sheriff, I got to warn you, these investigators with the ATF response teams don't play. I said, don't play. He said, they don't play. They quit school because of recess. He said, they're serious about their job. I said, wow. To me, priority one in this investigation for me and I understood what my role was to get the community together. The fire marshal and I got together with the pastors and let them know that we had this, that we were going to do everything in our power, get all the resources that we could together and catch this individual. And I made a promise that day. I said, we're going to arrest him. Didn't I tell you that? I said, we're going to arrest him. And an arrest was made, and I'm going to make some points in a minute about how that happened. But my goal and my job was to ensure the safety of other churches in the rural areas of the parish. I think we have like 150 plus, maybe 170 other churches in St. Landry Parish, in the rural areas of the parish. And we attempted to identify the most vulnerable churches, those in the areas that could possibly be set fire again. I dedicated overtime. I called my chief financial officer and said, do what it takes, the patrol supervisor, do what it takes, assign guys out there, make sure that we're out and patrolling, and I want deputies guarding these churches. The State Fire Marshal Butch Browning and I met daily to discuss options and directions. We called in the FBI, we called in the National ATF Fire Response Team, the Louisiana State Police, the local Fire District 3, and of course we provided investigators from our office. We met with the local pastors, as I mentioned, and they gave us some ideas. We gave them some suggestions, and we worked together. Everybody worked as a team. And I see where some media outlets prematurely reported that the suspect, Holden Matthews' father, turned him in. Now let me correct that. That is not, let me repeat, that is not true. Holden Matthews' father did not turn him in. We did not get any tips from the hotline. We got a lot of tips from the public, and we investigated those tips and leads. But this case was not solved with tips from the public, but many came in. This case was solved because of the men and women that were assigned were competent and driven to make an arrest. This case was solved because of the boots on the ground and the butts in the air. They didn't stop. Because of Holden's father or anyone else turning him in, it didn't happen. And as we all know by now, Holden's father is an employee of mine, fine man. He was shocked and hurt, as any father would be. And my heart went out to him yesterday when we notified him to come in. And I talked to him, and the news was broke to him. He was in terrible shape. This investigative team was successful because of the 1,000 hours of teamwork, the dedicated manpower at our disposal. And this, again, team was phenomenal. I set them up across the street in this new building, and when I walk in the morning to see what I could do, I was in the way. I got out of the way. Whatever they needed, they got. Many hours of drone activity, a lot of equipment resources was made available to us. And basic, old-fashioned detective work. You cannot solve a case unless you do good, basic, old-fashioned detective work. And in closing, I want to say I speak on behalf of St. Landry Parish citizens in thanking Governor John Bell Edwards for providing us, the State Fire Marshal Services, the expertise, the Fire Marshal Butch Browning for his leadership and guidance, Colonel Kevin Reeves of the Louisiana State Police for his assistance in providing manpower, the ATF, the FBI, and all others that helped us. We could not have done it alone. It was teamwork. And I say thank you to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I'm going to invite a man up here who I've only really known for a week, but I feel like I should have known you when I was born. But he's a man of God, and he's a man who is a leader among leaders. And Pastor Toussaint, you are given the opportunity to speak for these churches, and we really want to hear what you have to say.
I would like to first because they have played a vital part in my life. The president of the 7th District Baptist Association and our chief of police to come stand with me right now, please. The 7th District Baptist Association pretty much raised me from a baby, because we had something called a Sunshine Band when I grew up. It's a baby to train the children. I've been in that since I was a baby. I want to thank all of these people today. I came into the ATF, FBI, the Sheriff Department, the Police Department, the governor, and all of those. I just want to thank y'all from the bottom of my heart. But there's a higher power going on right now. Because I don't know if you're familiar with the scripture that says all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose.
That's right.
We all had a purpose. All of you had a purpose to be here today and a purpose in this investigation. Another part of the scripture, Paul says we must learn to endure suffering for the sakes of the people. And we've suffered. But I think it has a cause, a higher cause. Because I always said through this investigation, what's done in the dark will come to the light. But another thing is that I heard a song the other day says, I'm satisfied with Jesus. But is he satisfied with me? So it has been a revelation in my life that the Lord is pleased with what I'm doing. Even though we've lost our church, our building, look who he's brought together. A host of people and to come together. And I told him earlier that I found out that there was something else behind that badge than just a man, the inner man. Because our country has to find out that the God we serve does not look on the outside. He searches the heart. And I believe the heart of these people is why we're standing here today. Amen. Why we're here. That I can continue my ministry. Ministers, churches continue their ministry. And I believe their sermon is going to be stronger. Because a lot of people want to make it a hate thing. Well, we don't represent hate.
No.
We represent love.
No. Right.
Togetherness, peace, long-suffering, hope. And that's what we're here today to say to, not just to our community, but to our country. Be strong. Love one another.
That's right.
Be patient with one another. Help one another. Guide one another. Train up your children in the way they should go. And I thank God for all of you here today. But I thank God for this opportunity to talk to this nation that I love. Spent 7 years of the military for them. And I just want to thank you, Pastor, for the 7th District being part of my life to teach me the things of God. Thank you for your support this week. Thank all of you for helping us out. Thank you, Governor. Thank everyone. Now I can go to sleep. Because I'd rather eat, even though I pastor 2 churches, I have a full-time job driving an 18-wheeler. Okay, all right? So it's been strenuous. Now I can sleep. But I thank God for all of you. And I want you to pray for me, and I'll pray for you. Pastors, stay strong. Hold fast to that which is good. And I know the Lord will see you through. God bless you.
Okay, we'll take any questions. Beth.
Pastor W. Beersy. I know the governor used the word hate. I used the word bias. I mean, this is something that was an attack on a church but it was also an attack on 3 black churches. I don't think anyone thinks that's a coincidence. I don't know who wants to answer this, but I mean, is that something that you guys are looking into more, that this could possibly be hate motivated?
Do you want to answer that? Sure. Yeah.
I think, obviously, we need to continue to investigate this case and continue to go where the leads bring us, where the evidence takes us. Right now, we are just making sure we gather all the facts before any declarations are made or any proclamations are made about whether or not it's a bias-related event. There's work to be done yet, so we will continue to follow those leads.
Blue shirt.
Janet Shamlin from CBS News. Can you talk a little bit about how this has been on your department just in the past 12 to 18 hours, knowing that it's sort of, one of your own little family for one of your own and the emotions that are running in the department?
Well, in the beginning, what concerned me the most was the pastors and their thoughts in their congregations. And I knew we had to tell them that they're safe. We're going to provide safety. We're going to be there for them. And after I saw the relief on them, and they relayed to us that they were comfortable and they knew that we were going to do the best that we could, my only stress was making sure I had enough money in my budget to provide the overtime, and I did, and the extra security for the churches, and it was not that big of a deal.
But it's the son of one of your own people.
Yes, that's tough. But that tells you, and it should tell the country, that no matter who you are, there are consequences to the things that you do. I love Roy Matthews. Roy Matthews was one of my best friends, a great deputy. He knew nothing about his son's activity. And when I had to call him in, and we sat him down and told him what we wanted him here for, he broke down. It was tough. It was hard. It's not easy. Yes.
Sure. Can you talk about some of the law enforcement work, whenever you arrested the subject? Did he confess? Cooperate?
Well, we're not gonna go into that, but I'll let somebody else answer that.
I'll just say that it's an ongoing investigation, and I'll tell you from a probable cause standpoint, we have our man in our view, and we really can't go into the details of that.
Over here.
Yeah, Chris Welty with KATC. We're hearing that cyber technology played a big role in this arrest. Can you talk on that?
Well, we did use technology. Again, we're not going to disclose all the things that we use. I think it's pretty obvious. We use video surveillance. That was very helpful in some of the things that we did. But this case is still active, so we're not going to disclose the extraordinary technological means that we used.
Right here.
Fire Marshal, you mentioned that you thought other attacks were imminent. Can you elaborate on that at all? Were they other fires, other forms of attacks?
No, we can't at this point. Those are still being vetted, but we believe the extraordinary work that we did to take this person into custody averted what could have possibly been other crimes.
Yeah, fine.
Chief Rodney Galford Jones with KLFY. There was some talk about a gas can being suspicious, laden gas to Matthews. Are you guys able to say how the fires were caused and were they all done the exact same way?
Yeah, we haven't talked about a gas can at all. And again, everything dealing with the science of the fire is being vetted now at the National Response Team level of ATF to develop our cause and origin report. So we're not going to talk about anything as it relates to the fire scene.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about how he was taken into custody? Did he resist arrest? Where was he taken in?
He was taken into custody at a location near here. He complied and was taken in and arrested on the warrants and further processed.
Yes, ma'am.
Jasmine Stewart, News 15. Can you tell us if he acted alone or if he had any other plans to burn any other churches?
Again, we're not going to disclose what we thought could have possibly happened. That's still part of the investigation. We do believe we have the person responsible. We're not actively searching for anyone else, but the investigation is still going on at this point.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk more about this black metal motive, you might think? How did you guys find out about that?
Yeah, again, what I mentioned in the beginning, we believe there is a relation there with that. That is still being vetted, and we only bring that up because that has been out there in the public venue. You can do your own research and understand some of those things, but we're not elaborating any more other than the fact that that is a piece that we're looking at.
You had your hand up. No, you're done. Okay. Go ahead.
Can you talk about whether you all found any evidence, digital or otherwise, that suggested he was perhaps affiliated
Yeah, those would all be things that the FBI would be vetting, and I can't speak to that. I think the agent already told you they're looking at things, but I can't confirm or deny that.
Sheriff Deders, after you said that you talked to the sheriff's deputy about his son, did he have any role in helping his son surrender to you guys, authorities? Talk about the timeline with that.
He helped to facilitate the arrest, to get the suspect away from home so that he wouldn't be injured in the event that we had to maybe use force to go to his residence to get him. He helped facilitate to get him away from the house, get him to an area where we could arrest him, approach him, arrest him without any incident. That's the only involvement.
Does Holden have any history of violence?
Holden doesn't have any history of violence, no history of arrest.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a few years ago, in 2016, there were several fires of prominent locations here in the Opelousas area. Do we believe that Mr. Matthews is connected to any of those fires at this time?
Part of our team has been looking into past unsolved arsons in this region. We don't believe that at this point, but we have been vetting that to your question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any words for other churches or businesses across the state? I know prevention is something that, if this was someone who was acting alone, we don't know what the motive is, but is there some prevention, some preventative measures that churches and other establishments should take?
Sure, absolutely. You know, first off, the being victimized by a crime should be anyone's concern in whatever arena or facility you're in. We specifically have guidance of protecting religious institutions that we have on our website. That's also provided on the ATF's website. We've shared a lot of that information locally, and you'll see more of that, and we'll provide those links to you.
Yes, Lester.
Fire Marshal Brown, were there any cameras inside the churches, and were they set inside the church first or outside the church?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, we can't discuss any specifics of the fire investigation.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about extraordinary means that were used. Can you give us some examples of what you're talking about in terms of what constitutes extraordinary?
I really can't right now because our reports are being wrote and our warrants are being vetted, so I really can't expound upon that. I will confirm we do have video surveillance that was used in different arenas.
Yes, sir.
Are you digging into now his social media, or you're searching, are you seeking additional warrants to really get a full picture of him?
Again, the investigation is still very active, so many things like that are being looked at.
Does that include warrants to get legal process?
The processes would be followed if other information is needed. Yes, sir.
Talk to one of the pastors. I just want to know, is there a rebuilding process going on?
Yes, we
What's the looking forward plan?
yeah, we looking forward to soon as all y'all get out of our life.
Wait a minute now.
Not all of y'all. God bless you. Yes, we're going to the remaining rubble and all of those things. We're going to move it out and begin a rebuilding process. In fact, most of that has done, and I want to thank those that made contributions to us that to help us in rebuilding. And those that we've had connections from far all over the country to help us rebuild and within our cities. And that's why I say things are bright, because I've heard from pastors and ministers in the area that I've never talked to in my life. So I've heard from them, and we're going to start a network within the community from pastors, preachers, and churches to come together. These things turned out to be a wonderful thing. It started off a dark moment in our lives. But I think with the rebuilding process, you're going to see some things within the future that's going to be very bright for our churches.
How early in this investigation did y'all believe Matthews was your guy?
Again, I think as we've said, he was developed real quickly as a suspect, and in a matter of about 12 hours of him being developed, we had him in custody. So it
In a
was
matter of 12 hours of the first fire?
no, in a matter of 12 hours of him being developed as a suspect, we had him charged with arson crimes.
When did he actually become a suspect?
Well, we took him into custody late yesterday. So it was at some point early yesterday morning that we knew we had our man.
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear you. Not at all. His father's job duties didn't have anything to do with the investigation or anything related to investigation. So no, he had not been reassigned.
All right, ma'am.
Can you tell us Matthew's date
Again, we're still vetting the facts, and that would all be continuing as we continue to gather more evidence. Again, I think it's important to understand we've got extraordinary probable cause, in my view, to, number one, quickly take this person off the street and to assure this public that that threat is now not there.
One more question, folks.
Yeah, did Matthews say anything whenever he was arrested?
Again, we're not going to discuss that.
I'll give y'all one more.
Sheriff, you were talking about a little bit how the father helped him move to a place where there wouldn't be any incidents. Talk about how that arrest happened and where was he taken?
Well, I'm not going to get into that, but I can tell you that we made sure that nobody else at the home at the time was involved or in any direct danger if my guys were to go to the residence to arrest him. So we just wanted to make sure that we get him away from the safe environment he felt he was safe in, and then the arrest was made. So
Was this your deputies or was it FBI as well?
it was a team effort.
Okay. All right. Well, again, this is not the end. This investigation is still active. When we get more information, we'll put it out. We appreciate your cooperation, and we appreciate the outcome today.
Thank you.
Governor, you.